Welcome to the Floor Academy podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Hedin, licensed contractor in Arizona, former owner of Illustrious Hardwoods. I'm telling you, folks, I'm going to figure out this intro. I'm going to sit down after one of these episodes and really figure out how to introduce this now that I am no longer doing full-time installations. I gotta bang this out because this is a horrible intro lately. I want to thank you for joining us. This week, we have Paul Stuart of Stuart and Associates and Go Carrera with us, and we're going to be talking about raising the bar as, at least in my best guesstimation, it's very, very low in this industry, and you can pretty much step over it. You could almost drag your foot over it, sadly. And as long as you're doing what you say you're going to do when you said you were going to do it, you're beating most of the competition out there. And I didn't even say you had to do it right. I just said you had to do what you said you were going to do. So you could show up and install poorly, and you're doing it better than a lot of people out there, in my best guesstimate. And this isn't just about the technical side of things. It's not about the business side of things. It's all encompassing. And so we're going to dig into really just where we see the state of the industry and where we think we can get the needle to move by applying ourselves in different directions. And so Paul has a vast experience from being an installer and having the technical skills to be able to support himself that way, to building out two businesses now that, and one of them being to vet the abilities of installers. Is what Go Carrera does, is it allows you to find work, but it gives you a rating based on your skill set and how well you've taken care of your clients. And so between these two things, I think he's very well versed to be able to have this conversation and you know, look at it from running his own employees to having sub crews to being there himself and running a business and maintaining it, interacting with contractors, selling the jobs himself as a contractor. He's got a couple years experience managing and hanging out within the industry. So we're going to dig into that. I want to thank you for joining us. Floor Academy is here for you every week to give you a lifestyle lift within the flooring, tile, and stone industries, because no one's talking about the business side. Well, I am. We're talking about the business side, and that's this new thing that is really becoming a big deal. Is how do I do this better, more effectively, more efficiently, more profitably, and free up the time so I actually can spend it with my family, afford my hobbies, have time to do my hobbies, and not burn out, be broke, and not afford knee surgery in 30 years, and have to continue, sitting on the floor, doing what you do and hurting every day. It's not sustainable. It's not good for any of us. And we need to build a trade that's respected and actually looked at as a trade. And I'm here to help do that from the side that's often overlooked for its importance. But I'll tell you what, you will make way more money at the desk than you ever will in the field. It doesn't matter that the money is produced in the field. If you don't know how it's made and how it's managed, it doesn't matter how much you make, you're not going to have anything left to show for it. And that's what we're here doing. We got a quick word from Kronos Flooring Software. If you're looking for an easy and affordable way to manage your flooring business, Kronos Flooring Software is your solution. Streamline your workflow from managing leads, inventory, and scheduling installations. It includes every feature needed to support your business at a very affordable price. It's extremely user-friendly and easy to navigate. And in fact, if you're struggling to know your profitability, with one click, it's integrating with QuickBooks Online, which I know a lot of you are using, and it's going to spit out all the reports you want, right? You're going to be able to send your invoices right into there. You're going to be able to send your hours right into there. It's going to help you figure out what's actually happening with your business with the click of a button. You can visit kronosoft.com. That's KRONUSSOFT.com. Schedule a demo with Victor and Chesney. They will take great care of you. And honestly, if you do, let me know. I'd love to hear about it. I want to know what you thought and how that's working out. So again, it's kronosoft.com. Schedule a demo. improve your business, manage your life way easier, and stop struggling not knowing what's happening in your business and when things are happening. Paperwork in triplicate, all that stuff. You can start knocking it out. That's enough out of me. We're gonna let Paul introduce himself. Welcome, Paul. Who are you? What do you do? And why do you do it?
Thanks, Kyle. Well, my name is Paul Stewart, as you mentioned. Been in the flooring industry pretty much out of the gate. Got back from basic training for the National Guard and was looking to try to find a better job than I was busting down tires. So I was like, something's got to be better than this, getting grimy all day, working out in the cold. My mom was a bookkeeper at a flooring company and got me a job, and the rest is history.
Oh, wait, so you went from being working hard and grimy and cold to being working hard and being grimy inside. So at least you were warm.
There you go. Exactly. So I knocked out one of my goals, which was to not have frostbite on my fingers, and that was about the extent of it. But the truth is that I was offered a job at a few dollars more an hour as a helper than I was making busting down tires after doing it for several years. So it was an opportunity as I looked at it at that point. And then talking to some of the guys, I was employed as an employee for the first 4 years before I started my sub company. And, talking to some of the guys, they were back then making 12, $15 an hour. And that was just mind-blowing money to me at that point. I was making $5 an hour busting down tires. And so, the idea of making 5 times that or, 4 times that was just mind-boggling. So I stuck with it. I started, as I said, as an employee installer by the hour, and then moved into, well, the company I was working for was about to get bought out for like the 4th time, which is why your podcast is so much needed. Even flooring companies can learn a little bit about financial stability. But anyway, they were getting ready to get bought out for like the 4th time. And I just had decided with another guy that we thought we could do this, went out and started subbing, later started providing materials and labor. And now we're one of the largest flooring contractors in the Midwest. We have both in-house employee installers, hourly benefited people, as well as a large subcontractor network that we work with. We on a given week are working with somewhere between 40 and 80 subs.
Wow.
And then I'm the founder and CEO of Go Carrera, which is you mentioned earlier, is a software that is intended to not only vet and verify the skills and ability of the installers, but also then to give them the ability to connect with other companies on the network looking for installers to do their projects.
Okay. Which is great. I think that we need ways to hold people accountable. I don't know that there's enough of that within this industry, and we can, maybe this is where the discussion starts, is that some states have licensing, some don't. Some people will get training from the union, some don't. Some learn to get training from local reps at, little meetups at supply houses. Others get absolutely nothing. Some people don't even read instructions on the bag.
Well, and then you add to that, there's a various level of different trainings. I mean, you can literally get online and be certified in the tile industry. I mean, one of the things that Go Carrera really approached, and the real goal for it, was to take all of this stuff that actually matters. I mean, if you go to an afternoon workshop at your local Dow Tile or Florida Core and you learn how to mix self-leveler and apply it, for example, and that maybe the NTCA is doing that. Well, it does improve your skill set to a degree. Now, not to a huge degree, but it does. It should be. It should stay with you, and that's what Go Carrera does. Is basically every certification, training, workshop, online course, whatever you take, goes towards your hammer rating and building that. Now, you're not going to get an online certification and end up with a 5 hammer that goes 0 to 5,
Okay.
but you'll get the appropriate amount of credit towards your hammer rating, and that'll raise. And as you attend more trainings, you maybe go decide to go get certified. And the more companies that are on our network publishing their work based on the hammer rating, so they'll put a hammer rating filter on a project when they publish it to our network, and then we match them with the installers that have that hammer rating.
Okay.
So yeah,
Yeah,
and
it
just
makes a lot of sense.
as a super quick note, the hammer rating is patent pending, both U.S. and international, and that's a piece of code that is officially patent pending. So the patent office to patent a piece of software or an algorithm is quite difficult, and we've passed all those tests. So we're just in that waiting phase for the full patent.
That's awesome. I look at anything to give third party verification to this industry, I think is going to be super powerful. And I think that's part of the discussion of being able to raise the bar here in holding ourselves accountable. It's for me, when I'm looking around online, I think there's always you constantly see the posts of there's a post that goes around quite often of, you don't got to send your kids to college, let them learn a trade, and then it lists out like 8 different trades on the thing, and it has starting wages for them of what you can make, right? And it's always like electrician, plumber, HVAC, welding. It's got all these different things. Never once does flooring come up in the discussion of it being a trade. And I get it. Okay. If we're going to look at it specifically from a union side of things, at least a lot of hard surface stuff falls under the carpentry union, which is going to be more framing and whatnot traditionally. But I don't think that's fair, because, and then tile is under the masonry guys, but there's enough work at it in the size of country that we are in that they really are their own things, and you can specialize within them, and yet we're not recognized that way. And I think a lot of that has to do with where the professionalism is at within our industry. When homeowners' reaction to you showing up on time and submitting a bid on time is that they're surprised.
Yeah.
That's wrong, right? The fact that you showed up when you said you were going to, and then delivered something when you said you were going to, and that's blowing them away. No wonder there's no respect. It doesn't blow my mind. And so is this something that you saw when you started and you've watched it only get worse, or was it, I don't know. Like, you tell me, right? Like, was it bad and it only got worse, or did it used to be better and something was broken along the way that has exacerbated the problem? I can't even speak to make it what it is today.
Well, I would tell you that I got in right when I feel like the straw was put on the camel's back, like right when it was really breaking, which was kind of that 1995. I'm sorry, I feel old when I say that, because my grandkids say that's in the 19th century. But yeah, so when I started in 95 was really when the subcontractor started to gain a lot more steam, particularly in the commercial world.
Mm-hmm.
I worked by the hour, and every once in a great while a sub would come to the company. And then now, if you look at the Midwest, it's almost all subcontractors. I have nothing but love for subcontractors, and in fact, Go Carrera's platform was built for them.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact is that there's no governance for the subcontractor to ensure. There's no metric outside of Go Carrera's hammer rating now, but there's no metric to ensure that they are getting properly trained. And I came in about the time when the old timers that were training me were in the union. They were 50, 55 years old at the time, and they were in the union, and they talk about the good old days when they'd go onto a job site and we were respected. and it was just starting where flooring was getting such a bad name. Um, Now, in the residential world, because I didn't start there, I'm
Hmm.
not sure if it started earlier than that, but in the commercial world, it seemed about that time frame where we really started to get this bad rap, so to speak. And you mentioned that a lot of these trade ads, they'll start with, electricians and plumbers and HVAC and welders. They don't mention flooring, and it blows my mind because the value, I don't know if many people know this, but the value of the flooring sold, the labor value of the flooring sold every year is north of $40 billion. That's the labor value for what's sold
God.
every year in flooring. Now, some of that obviously is DIY,
Hmm.
uh, but a lot of that DIY gets redone. So, but at the end of the day, that's a huge number, and we're not recognized in the industry as a skilled trade. And I
Yeah.
think we're actually, from a hand skills perspective, one of the most demanding, right? I mean, it takes a lot of skill to be heat welding, flash coving sheet vinyl, or hand sewing Axe Minister carpet in theaters and casinos,
Hmm.
or putting
Hmm.
up porcelain tile that's a quarter-inch thick, gauged porcelain panels that are a quarter-inch thick and 5 foot by 10 foot, and properly installing those, like, and cutting around circles and all the angles and everything. I mean, it's a highly skilled trade, and we don't get our due for sure.
I 100% agree. I always love it when, the guys and gals tell me like, "Oh, I'm not good at math. I can't do it." And I'm just like, I'm scratching my head. I'm like, "Do you know what a 3-4-5 triangle is?" And they're like, "Yeah." I'm like,
Yeah.
"So you can do the Pythagorean theorem?" And they're like, "What?" I'm like, "Okay, so you missed that day in math class and weren't paying attention, but you're doing like high level math, right? You get it." And then you know, the other excuse comes down to like, "I can't do my books. I don't understand what's going on." Like they claim they don't understand money. You're reading a tape measure with one of the worst like fractional unit systems that's ever been
Yeah.
invented, and adding up inches and eighths and quarters and sixteenths. And if you can do that, you've got to be able to know that 2 + 2 = 4, and that if the job cost you 5, you're now negative $1. Like, the math isn't hard compared to the creations that you make, the artistry that's done, and the math you did to do that. It
I
blows.
found
There's
that
like a disconnect.
it's more fear than anything. People fear money. I can attest. I've made a lot of money in this industry over the years, and worked really hard to learn this, but and overcome the fear. But
Hmm.
there's a fear of money, and not to get all Tony Robbins here, but a lot of people fear the success. And I think installers are particularly susceptible to that. They work hard. They just feel like if they work hard enough and they put enough flooring in, that they'll be successful. But the truth is that tracking and investing and understanding what the money is, that's just
Hmm.
a mean that dollar is just a piece of paper. It's really an indication of the value you've created for your customer. And if you'll look at it like, if I can make that dollar grow without my labor, and I can make sure that I'm profitable as an installer, if I'm a sub, for example, even hourly, like
Hmm.
properly investing your money and taking care of your finances. I've just found it's more fear-based than anything else. I over had to overcome that myself. I know what that's like. It's like you don't want to know the unknown, the deep sea of doubt.
There's a lot of that. I think I grew up with a single mom, and money was always tight. And so I was always like, I'm never like, I don't want to live that life. I got to find a way not to do this. But it took, like, I learned how to manage money because things were always tight, but I didn't necessarily learn how to save it and make it work for me. And that was a skill set that I had to learn and pick up and evolve. And I think a lot of people are raised in homes where like we didn't talk about money. I just because it was tight. It was a scary thing. It was like, oh, we're not going to have enough to pay the bills, or we got to go to the food bank and get food. And I think a lot of people can relate to that, and they don't have the discussions. Whereas my son has been given a totally different environment where business is being discussed at the dinner table of what's happening, how and why, and I've got to go charge this, and this isn't going to work this way, and that the home finances are discussed, and like he knows that we're not hurting, we're not rich by any means. In fact, I've recently started calling myself independently poor. Because I still have to work, but we're not like struggling, right? So I can't retire, but it's going well enough that I can take it a little easier than I used to, right? So I'm independently poor at this point. Maybe one day I get to the rich part. But his ability to look at situations and decipher them, and his comfortability with money is so much different than his friends that come around, or even other adults that I see him interact with. And it's striking. It's scary that this isn't normal, that financial education is not a part of, well, then, I mean, if we want to get all crazy.
Well, when you're always talking, like you stated earlier, when the talk is not there when you're growing up poor. And I was one of 7 kids in my family, and my dad was a painter and my mom was a waitress. So we definitely struck the poor check mark. Mm-hmm. The fact is that they avoid talking about money. I find that people who are not good with it, they don't want to talk about it. And then that just gets passed right on to your children. Or if they do talk about it, it's like money doesn't grow on trees. And do you know how much stuff costs? And it's all this negative connotation around money. And then we grow up and we wonder why we're fearful of money and fearful to look at there's a stat, I forget the percentage, but there's a high percentage of Americans that do not even keep a checkbook register to know where their bank account is. So like a lot of that is not just a flooring guy. It's just a natural human tendency to fear what you don't understand. And I've really tried to pour out into our install community to get to understand money, get to understand how you invest your money and invest your time. You mentioned it earlier about having some type of a life in this business can be difficult. That has to be an intentional approach. You have to take your life with an intentional approach and go out, do the best job you can, but remember your family, remember your life, remember your time, remember your money.
They all play together. I mean, that's a great point. I think a lot of people are like, well, the next one's going to get me ahead. The next one's going to get me ahead. Well, they called and I have to take the project. And I'm sure you see a lot of your subs do it, right? You offer them something and they'll go work 10, 12, 14-hour days to get it done. And they'll come back and they're probably like, hey, Paul, what's the next one? Can I get another one? What can I go do now? Like, I gotta. And that was me. I started, and anybody that called me, I'd immediately go out and get them their consultation and do the estimate and get it mailed off to them and taking things. And, even before that, before I was fully out on my own, it was like I was working Monday through Friday. And then, I was going and finding little projects to do on weekends. So then I was away from my family because I was trying to earn the money to buy my own tools and trailer and stuff so I could go out on my own. And all of this sacrifice led to this very toxic place of like, it's never enough and it's not going to work. And when I stopped and I started learning to value my time and put a higher price on it and work with people that respected the boundaries I was setting so that I could hang out with my kids and I could go do the things that I wanted to with them, I was able to command a higher rate because I was dealing with a different type of person that wasn't bargain shopping. They were looking for quality and they respected that I respected myself. I mean, there was plenty of stuff where people would be like, we really want the project done this week. And I was like, look, it's a 5-day project. And at the, early on, my son was in Cub Scouts. And so we do a bunch of camping trips and stuff. And I was like, I gotta leave Friday. I'm not working that day, so I can either start your project and leave it unfinished over the weekend for you, or we can push a week. I'll come back. I'll be back on Monday. I'll do all 5 days. We'll have you done, and I'll be in and out. And people are like, no, that's fine. Like, go ahead, look for something that's shorter, fill in that space you got. We'll take the next week. And just standing your ground goes really, really far. And I don't know that enough contractors do it. They get walked all over.
Just realizing there's more out there. Like, kudos to everybody who approaches work really hard, to what what you mentioned earlier. That's okay, but void of a plan on how that actually improves your life, I think, is what the problem is. Like, sometimes you do got to just really work hard and take every job when you first get started that you can get your hands on, and you approach it with hard work and determination, but have a plan on how that elevates your life. Like you mentioned, you think that always it's going to be the next job and the next job. Well, it could be the next job that puts you on over the hill and allows you to start your own company or something. But you have to have a plan for that. You know what I'm saying? And that's what we're talking about when we're talking about finances or any of this is having an intentional plan. So I think the financial education and prudency, because the bar that you kind of opened with is so low for flooring installers to just go out and start a flooring company or installation company and say I install floors, and there's just no checks and balances to make sure that they either should be doing that. Do they have the not only financial wherewithal to do that, but do they have the technical skills and the management skills to be able to do that? And frankly, there's a lot of subs. There's a lot of flooring installation companies that should not be subs. It should be employee installers. And
Yes.
that's why we have both. We want we know that there's people who thrive in both atmospheres, and we want to do our best as a company from the flooring company side to help them be successful, whether they're an employee installer or a subcontractor. So yeah, I agree with you. I would say that as we're talking about all this and we're talking about how to raise the bar in our industry, I just got off of a panel discussion with one of our publications in the flooring industry, talking about how does a manufacturer, from the manufacturer standpoint, how do they kind of protect themselves and maybe get their product in the market more through warranties, and they want definitions for what a professional installer is and these other things. We need a way to quantify things, right? Because the certifications and the trainings are so vastly different, and there's great industry or organizations out there doing training, but they all approach it a little bit different. And if you was to ask any one of them, they think they're the standard for installing, training to install. Yes. So I say there really needs to be some metrics that quantify and track how well we're doing. I'll give you just a quick example. I went and consulted with a customer this week, and I told her about the hammer rating and Go Carrera, and she had just gotten one of her bathrooms redone, and it was really, really terrible. No other way to say it. It was just a really, really terrible project from the beginning. Not only was the install done terribly, there was nothing done to prep the floor. Over 1940s slat wood, just mosaic tile stuck right to it. It was
Jeez.
It was really, really bad. It was a handyman that said he knows how to do tile. And this customer was like, I just wish there was a way that the public can look. I'm an accountant. How am I supposed to know that he tells me he can do tile, and the contractor I hired to do my remodel said he can do tile, and then this is what I got?
Yeah.
So having a way to really quantify the skill set and make that a public, transparent, assessment of the installer skill. I think, that's what Go Carrera does, and that's
Yeah.
where we're really trying to change the industry, raise that bar, and promote. The only way you get good at anything in any trade is experience or education,
Hmm.
right? You can't shortcut experience. You can't get older faster, get more experience faster, but you can commit to your skill set by getting the proper training and trying to build your reputation as a professional. So that's my ploy to
Well,
everybody.
well, and you bring up a great point because it's homeowners shouldn't at homeowners, general contractors, architects, whatever side of the industry we want to talk about, whoever's hiring the installation company. Look, if you're going to come and say that you know how to do something, right? If Mrs. Jones is calling you and you answer the phone, and you say that you're a tile installation company, a carpet installation company, whatever, you've committed to being a professional. And yet a lot of companies are anything but that. And that's why your client was frustrated. Like, how am I supposed to know, right? I work a 9 to 5. I'm off over here. I went and I looked at a floor that needs to be torn out from the builder. This lady's done her own research over like the past year. She's got an entire file cabinet full of like standards for flooring and different manufacturers, qualifications and just all of this stuff. And I was like, this is insane. You essentially had to go educate yourself on how to hire somebody because there's so many people presenting themselves as a professional. So where is the integrity at to truly admit you don't know what you're doing? Okay, I understand that a lot of stuff is continuing to get made into more and more DIY products, and I can't blame the manufacturers for that because, again, look at the state of the industry, and you have a bunch of unqualified labor presenting themselves as professionals that know how to do it, so they've had to make it easier and easier. What they can't make easier is the prep work. And yet so now people don't think you need it because they don't understand how to read instructions. And so the products themselves are very easy to install, but it's the prep work that makes the difference, right?
All the difference. I mean,
it's crazy.
it doesn't take a genius to take a piece of tile, okay, using ceramic, for example, and put a spacer in and spread adhesive,
Yes.
mastic or thin set rather, and put a piece of tile in and put a spacer in between two spots to make sure you have a grout joint. What takes professionalism and takes a professional to do it right is the floor prep, as you stated, understanding what's going to stick to what, how to properly. Do you use a underlayment? Do you use a cement board? Do you use an uncoupling membrane? What are you going to use to properly prepare that floor for ceramic tile? And then, properly troweling it so that your air pockets get out and all of this stuff. That's where professional, installation comes in. If you watch some of these these flipper house stuff, you can just see the catastrophes that happen. And you can go into a flipper about 3 years later, and if it was, most of them are falling apart,
Yes.
particularly the flooring.
You don't even have to go to a flip house, though. You can go in a new build from the major home builders, and it's
Yeah.
atrocious.
Yeah, we need a standard. We need to all get behind a standard way of doing things, and that's whether if as a entire country we could say, look, here's the course you have to pass to get a license to be a tile guy. This is the course you have to pass to get a license to be, a soft goods installer or a carpet installer or whatever. That would be wonderful, but that is not going to happen,
No.
unfortunately. You cannot get all these entities together. Just getting a decent apprenticeship program started in a state is a Herculean effort.
It has
So,
been that
you know,
the FCEF has struggled, and even at first it was hard to get the people, the organizations that tout certifications and training were, you, there was conflict among them to agree to all work together, which is
yeah, yeah, I
crazy.
could,
Like
yeah,
it's just insane, right? I got to interrupt us real quick, and then I want to get back into this because I think I want to continue down this train of thought. But real
awesome.
quick, we got a word from Johns Manville. Compatible with all GoBoard products is the new GoBoard membrane. If you're asking why a membrane when GoBoard itself is waterproof through and through, the answer is simple. A membrane extends your GoBoard installation for mud pans, steam rooms, and shared walls requiring a fire-rated board under waterproofing. Now, who's going to be the most badass GoBoard installer there is? You are. You can visit www. That's too many W's. www.jm.com/GoBoard for more information. Check out their other products, whether it's the drain, their wedges to be able to do some really fun, why can't I think of it? Like envelope cut stuff. We got you can find the warranty for the different sealants they accept. You don't necessarily have to use theirs if you don't have access to it, which is great. In our crazy modern world where supply chain issues will strike you out of nowhere and you may not be able to get the thing. So they've got a generous warranty where you can work with other products within it. And they still say, you know what, we're good with that, which is really cool. Because a lot of the system stuff is you do it all with us or it doesn't work. So again, that's www.jm.com/GoBoard. All right, Paul. I want to continue down this train. So you were saying that like there needs to be a standard, and it's not going to come from the government. It's not going to come from local government or a state. And I think this is the beauty of having this platform here is that I challenge all of you that are listening to come up with this, especially knowing everyone talks about this installation crisis. We all know that there's not enough young people coming in the trade. And so this industry is very lucrative already. When you respect yourself and the trade itself, you can do very well for yourself. Knowing that though, if there's less people to do the work over the next decade, there's going to continue to only be an increased demand, which will force the cost up because there's less people to do it. So you'll be able to demand more for your time. There is a turning point in this calculation where if you think the hacks in this industry are bad now, everybody and their grandmother is going to start offering flooring installation services because it becomes so lucrative that it's going to just devastate us. And so I don't want to talk about gatekeeping, but it's up to you to start setting a standard and working to better your local environment around you in your local industry and set a standard that this is how we do things. This is how we present ourselves. This is how we need to go complete projects so that those people come and work for you as opposed to the competition and learn the wrong way of doing it. It's the biggest lie.
Point.
Thank you. The biggest lie ever told, and it may have been told to you when you were an employee, is, oh, you got to go out on your own. There's no money being an employee. You got to do it. And then how many people get fed that? And yet, like you've said already, they have no business running their own company.
Yeah, I think that you can be successful in flooring in both aspects. If you're choosing to go out on your own, it can be very lucrative. But please make sure that you're getting properly educated, not just on the hand skills. That's a whole different. I mean, that's what we've been talking about this whole time. But Kyle, what you're focused on is financial and business stuff. Make sure you have that. Like most people don't just go, if you go start a franchise, they have a whole training system before you can actually open that franchise or own it. We just have that really low bar that you spoke of. The hammer rating, to me, that is what is the separating factor. It is the bottom line is you can't be doing, flooring the wrong way and have a great hammer rating. It just
Mhm.
doesn't happen. And, we're making that a public profile so that, meaning that anybody can have one, can have a public profile with your hammer rating metrics on there, and we'll provide you with the QR code and everything. So people can have that transparency and that confidence when they hire you. It's the best I could come up with. Your question earlier, I had gotten burned myself on several projects. I say several, a few projects where we hired someone who said they could do it. That like
Mhm.
they said all the right things. And me being an old installer, I got fooled myself. I say old installer, I was just out a few weeks ago installing. So, uh, but, but I got fooled myself. I lost a major client because I had a gentleman tell me he could do a flash cove heat weld job at a birthing center at a hospital just north of us. And, you know, if you've ever done birthing centers, they really, really like to have New Year's babies. And we were supposed to be done before the new year, and we weren't. In fact, my install manager went out and looked at the job after he said he was done and called the demo crew to come out and tear it out.
God,
Like we were trying to beat the end user ever seeing this project. It was that bad. We
that's
need
horrible.
metrics. We
Hmm.
need ways to know that somebody has the proper training to do the job that they're applying to do. And that's what the Go Career system
Well,
offers. That's what I'm a big proponent of. If anybody has a better solution, I'll get behind it because that what I want to do is heal our industry.
I agree. So let me counter that because this is a problem that I know exists is a lot of retailers within our industry or workrooms can't offer certifications because they're using all subcontractors and you can't force a subcontractor to go. You could say that this entity is coming to town. If you'd like to do it, they can do it. But again, a lot of these guys are probably like, I'm not spending money instead of missing a day. I can't afford to do that, so I'm not going to go. You can make an employee go to a certification and get certified. Well, there's standards in place. I don't know that they're always the highest to get a certification and walk away with your sheet of paper. And the guy may truly have the hand skills to pass the certification and do it at a high level. But now, does he have the integrity to hold himself accountable in the field to deliver those results? And as an employee, being forced to do it is a lot different than me as a owner operator wanting to go prove to myself I'm good enough to do it, or whatever my motivation is. For me, it was that I wanted to prove to myself I was good enough, but also I saw the value in having a marketing tool. And what is the employee truly getting out of this, right? Like, how do we need to change the industry to, one, get employees excited about certifications, but then how, I think it's an integrity issue, a
You
lot of
mean
it.
trying to get the subs excited about because employees, like you said, you can like we pay and make and have them go to different certification courses depending on,
Correct.
our their skill set and what is in need.
But that
But
doesn't mean
as a
they want to
sub, I can't
be
force
there.
them.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean the employee wants to be there. I think there's it be whether it's the employee side or independent owner operator side. I think there's not enough like passion put out in the end. There's a lot of really salty older people in this industry that just put out this air that they hate their existence and what they've done for the past 30 or 40 years. And then they're training the next generation. Like, if that's the crusty old dude that's training me, I don't want to stick around and do it, right? And I
Yeah.
think that's a problem we have to overcome is like we need to change how we presented. I think a lot of times this is hard. It's going to break you. Your knees are going to need surgery. It sucks. You don't make any money. I didn't find any of that. I found it very rewarding. I found it very lucrative. I found some of the coolest and best friends I've ever had in my life in this industry. And so like, I don't understand where that came from, but it seems more prevalent than the mindset that you and I are kind of coming at this and looking at it from. And I think that's where we need to change it and instill a better sense of value.
Well, you mentioned a few things. One, like the integrity or the pride that goes along with the trade.
Mm-hmm.
That is I think even outside of flooring. I just think that we have a societal image problem. Like it's I'll give you a quick story. This started years ago when we started telling everybody they needed to go to college to be successful.
Yes.
But a good story. I was working in a middle school, and we happened to be in this wing of the area that had a math class at the end of the hallway, and so we had a large portion, probably 100 and something foot of it blocked off, and we were putting in DCT at the time, but it had all these waves going down it and circles and square offset squares and all this. It took an enormous amount of geometry for me to lay that floor out properly. A lot of how do I say this, like creative intuition on figuring out how to put the curves in correctly to match the soffits above and all of these things. And this was before we had lasers. So I had plumb bobs and all kinds of stuff going down and marking. And anyway, long story short, I get up to go down the hall towards the commons area to use the bathroom. And the teacher says, I overhear her saying, you keep this up and you're going to end up like those guys out there.
Yep. Yeah.
So that is kind of, and the story could go on, but that is the antithesis of what the problem is that years ago, decades ago, a couple decades ago probably, is when it started to be frowned upon to be in the trades. Like I remember looking up to my uncle. He was a superintendent for one of the larger general contractors around here. And I looked up to him. He was, in my mind, one of the most successful people as I was growing up in my formidable years.
Mm-hmm.
And when society started looking down on the trades, as though, like, if you are a felon that can't get a job anywhere else, you end up as a construction worker.
Yeah.
Well, and how it's just, they wanted to cast a bad light on this thing to get more people to go to college, get more in debt, and end up with a degree that may earn you some money, but a lot of them don't.
Mm-hmm.
And you end up in the trades anyway. I mean, save the money and go to the trades.
Yes.
That won't fix itself overnight. We're not going to be able to implore people to quit being grouchy, but they've been looked down upon for so long. I don't blame the older dudes. They've been talked to as though they're lesser in society in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. And the truth is, around here, we value our labor. We value our installers. We care about them and we love them. I gave a talk at Tice about selling your projects based on the talent that you have out in the field. And we do very good at that. I gave an example there where we actually won a medical clinic because of an installer that was working, that still works for us actually by the hour. And then after that job was done, that same GC came back on a major medical project and said, as long as Norby's his name, as long as Norby's the lead on this job, I'll give it to you. And we were not even low. I mean, that's the reality of how you can sell when you care about and actually give a darn about the skilled trade. And so I think that'll change over time. There's a lot of people that are starting to see that, like, I hate to be the AI guy, but it is taking over a lot of lower lying computer jobs, content creation, a lot of this stuff. Some of the largest Instagram accounts right now are AI created, 100%. I mean, that's the reality. So you can, as we are on these podcasts and we're imploring people to value labor and to care about your crews and to incite pride into them. That's what we can do on the local level. On a
Yes.
national level, we just have to, you know, one of the things that really annoys me in the industry is shops and stuff that they don't want to give their installers any credit. They don't want other people to know how good they are because they're so fearful someone's going to come take them. I say, like, treat them well and they won't leave, first off.
Yep.
Secondly, the key is that they deserve the kudos, the accolades of their hard work. Give it to them.
Yep.
Give it to them and allow them to feel that pride of a job well done. And you know, I talk a lot about how this industry, once it started so heavily becoming subcontractor dependent, about 80 to 87% of all flooring that you walk on at your home, in businesses at the Target, was done by
Hmm.
a independent subcontract labor provider. If that metric is true, which it is, between 80 and
Yeah.
87%, then we have the highest demographic that is the least trained because you can't exude the controls over them. Hence is
Oh,
why
yeah.
we adopted at Stuart and Associates when I started building Go Carrera. The whole idea was just I wanted to make sure that when I publish a job that the guy was qualified. And when I do that, our crews here are more encouraged than ever to go out and get more certifications and education because it increases their hammer rating, which allows them to qualify for more work. But on a retail level, or even just as a say you're a sub that does all your work off Angie or one of those kind of labor providers, if you can give your client an easy to read metric, a 0 to 5 metric that you just simply go click on this QR code and you can look at not only who I am but what I've done,
Hmm.
that's a good start. And I've always been ears. So when people in the industry tell me like what they want to see some of this stuff do, I started building this because nobody was building anything that we could sink our teeth into.
Hmm.
So that's kind of all the motivation that came into it is my love for the trade, my love for skilled tradesmen. The fact is I've been able to provide through installation a good lifestyle for my family. I've got 2 kids. We just adopted 3 kids a couple of years back, so now I got 5, and I got 2 grandkids. And I feel like teaching them that hard work is okay
Yeah.
and that this trades are a good option, not just an option, but a good option.
Yes.
That's what we need to keep doing as parents, in my opinion. Like not telling Johnny, "Hey man, you're going to be a NFL football star," or "Hey man, you can go. Anybody can code and be a genius." Well, AI is doing that too, guys.
Yep.
Like there's entire
The,
websites and applications that are built by AI. So like if the one thing the part that they're not going to really put a lot of emphasis on over the next 20 years is putting in floors, painting walls, putting in block, pouring concrete, this kind of stuff. We are still needed. And if you want to make a good lifestyle for yourself, like you alluded to earlier, Kyle, about the supply demand metrics and kind of that dynamic, I mean, we're going to be more needed than ever in the future. And so joining the trades to me is just a good option for the youth.
I 100% agree. I think it's super important to put that out there, show them that there's access to it, and let them see. You brought up that having team members that are valuable and getting the rewards are important. I'm working with my bookkeeper, and she recently hired a young lady who was going to go to school for accounting. She ended up not going to school because in her first week she realized how much more she would learn on the job, and she was like, okay, I'm going to quit school before they start taking my loan money and go full time here. And then she was like, well, she's she wasn't getting paid the best, but she was doing okay. And then it turned out that she was hooked up through a family member of like, hey, you can go get this job over here. It's going to pay a little bit better. It's going to have benefits. It's going to have all this stuff. And the owner told her, she was like, I think that's a great opportunity. And if that's truly what you want to do, you should take it. I can't offer you any of those things. I love having you around. I think you're really valuable to the team. You bring a lot to the table. We appreciate your hard work and how fast you've learned everything. I'm not going to be able to do that offer. The best thing I could do is I could get your pay to here. And it was a significant pay increase, but there wasn't the benefits. There wasn't guaranteed vacation time. There wasn't a 401k plan or medical or anything like that. She went home. She thought about it long and hard for a weekend, talked it over with some family members. She came back and she said, can you really pay me that amount? She said, yes, I can really pay you that amount. She said, I'm staying then. It's not about the money all the time. It's not about, and yes, she did get a raise, but she didn't get the raise that put her at the same amount as the other company. She was still making less. She still didn't have the benefits. It's not about that. It's about taking care of people and showing them that you truly care about their value. And it also came down to, she knows that there's still opportunities at that company as it grows, and that she is the backbone of that future. And
That's a great point right there.
Yeah.
You got to show people that there's opportunity for growth.
Yep. And so being able to do that, like your small company of you as owner operator can change the industry moving forward. Each employee that you bring on, each subcontractor you interact with, how are you challenging them to be better? Because I think a lot of times it's so bad, especially with the major builders, of the builders hire a design company. The design company subs out all the work. That company subs out the work, and that company subs out the work. And then nobody is checking any of the subs licenses. At least in my state, you have to be licensed for the trades, depending on whatever trade it's going to be. And if you're going to subcontract work out, per the registry of contractors, it must go to a licensed contractor. But nobody's checking that the sub of the sub of the sub of the sub is licensed. And so there's a bunch of illegal labor.
I wish that there was a way that the state would just say, look, you can go one or two deep or whatever.
Something.
Like, it's got to stop somewhere.
Yes.
And this subbing to a sub to a sub to a sub, companies need to just not allow that to happen. We will sub our work, our labor out, and we realize that might go one layer deeper. But if it gets past that, you're just not working here. And really, we don't even like that one layer deeper. We want to work with the guy that is out there doing the work. And in some cases, though, there's an argument to be made for the guy that knows how to manage a business and put everything together, as long as that guy is training the people that work for him. But I would still rather, and I still think that they should be W-2'd and not 1099. Like,
well, let's not cheat the system.
Have W-2s employees, not 1099 guys that they're subbing to additionally. It dilutes the whole thing, and everybody makes less and less, and then we wonder why the projects aren't great.
Well, and I think it comes back to an integrity issue, right? I have to actually have integrity and deliver what I'm supposed to. Now, granted, most people don't know how the 1099 W-2 thing works, and it's all very convoluted, and it's not black and white. There's a lot of gray in it. No, it's very simple. If you're providing the tools and you're telling them how and when to get it done, they're an employee. If you're handing over a work order and saying, go have fun, the deadline's over here, then they can be a subcontractor. And you can't give them tools. If they're a sub, you could rent them tools, but you can't give them tools. It's not as complicated, but nobody knows, right? And that's why, you constantly see people, well, I'm a 1099 employee. That's
What?
the biggest contradiction I've ever heheard. You can't be
Yeah.
both, right? But no, they got me. They just 1099 me. Well, yeah, that's because the guy's uneducated on how business works, and he's scamming you. He's scamming the government. Everyone's getting screwed on this situation, and it's horrible. And so we have to do better to hold ourselves accountable to go get the information we need. If you own an LLC, if you had to go file the paperwork to run a business legally in your state and you're not learning how to run a business, what are you doing?
Hmm. How do you propose? I mean, like, what mechanisms can we do in the industry to, add that integrity? You've said that several times on this
But
podcast. And
it's a
how do we
matter,
add that integrity?
we have to hold ourselves accountable. So if you see somebody doing something wrong, call them out on it. Like, I would hope that if somebody heard something just absolutely absurd on this show, they're not going to sit there and feel bitter about it. They're going to reach out to me and hold me accountable for what I said. They're going to say, no, man, that's not right. You can't say that. That's inaccurate. Here's why. I want to have that discussion because I want to be better than I was yesterday. And I think that's the problem. I don't know that other people want to be better. They want it.
Well, I
We
think
like
there's
it
a
easy.
substantial.
We don't want to struggle. I get that. Change is hard, and no one likes being uncomfortable, but so maybe that's where we start, is let's teach our kids that it's okay to be uncomfortable and experience change.
Well, I love that. I'll tell you, I think that staying uncomfortable is you know, a mantra of mine. I wrote a book and getting ready to publish it, and
Okay.
it's more of a journal, honestly, but it's got a few pages in there. But one of the things is stay uncomfortable. You've never heard anybody great start with, I'm a couch potato. You know,
Yes.
nobody great started on the couch. Like, it just doesn't happen. Get uncomfortable, get yourself out there. So I love that. But I think integrity boils down to accountability to one another in the industry and not being scared to but scared of transparency, scared of people really knowing how good you are.
Hmm.
People, I've found that a lot of the good guys, they want to know what their, where they stand, whether it's their Google reviews or what have you, or your hammer rating on Go Carrera or whatever. Um, the guys that, try to get away from that, I should say the men and women that try to get away from that, those Google reviews or what have you, whatever the metric is. And
Hmm.
I know I've talked a lot about the hammer rating, so I don't want to just keep going down that path. But what I'm getting
So,
at is whatever your metric is,
hmm.
you should want you should not hide from your faults. You should not hide from your shortcomings. Those should be motivators for you to, build a moat and start getting better, build a bridge, I should say, and
Hmm.
get over that moat and become a better installer or a better businessman or, a better in society,
I,
like all around.
well, I think we need to be willing to walk away too. There's a lot of places, there's a lot of GCs, a lot of retailers that when people come to them and say, no, that's wrong, they're told just do it anyways. And then
Huh.
because they got to get paid, they go and they do the install improperly. They don't do the prep work. They install it tight because they don't have transitions, whatever it is, right? Whatever the excuse is, somebody is saying, no, don't worry about it. Just go do that thing. And they lie. Oh, we'll take care of it, right? Well, no, you won't. You're going to totally throw me under the
Hmm.
bus when it fails. Be willing to walk away. That would be a huge change in this industry, that when somebody tries to throw you under the bus, if you were to just stop and say, nope, not doing it, they're going to look at you and say, wait, what? No, man, I'm done. Like, I'm not doing it. We can either do it this way, like it says to do it, or we're done here. And if you walked away, that would shut down hundreds of projects every day, thousands of projects every day, more than likely. And it would get people
Well,
starting
and
to say
knowing
that you
how
have to sell that stuff.
and knowing the right thing to do. We did a training this week with our project managers here at the flooring company about ASTM F710 and the installers as well, and said, look, if one of your managers are telling you to do something that's outside this standard, you need to bring it to the attention of leadership and say, hey, I don't feel comfortable doing this. It's going to result in either a poor customer experience or a failure. And in either case, we tell our installers it's your duty to call out I mean, we're too big of a company for me to be looking at micromanaging everybody. So we need each person to have that accountability of one another. And that transparency and accountability is what I'm all about. I think that that's how we can start to heal. Again, this problem didn't happen overnight. These problems, I should say, they're not going to be solved overnight, but we do have to, that doesn't mean you don't keep that fight going. And I think that's why you have this podcast, is because you want to keep that fight going. You're not giving up. As hard as it can be sometimes to see these things happen in our industry, you're not giving up, and you're fighting forward to improve the industry. So kudos for that.
Thank you. It's going to, all of us, it's going to be one day at a time, one interaction at a time, one relationship at a time. It's not going to go quickly. I mean, this thing's 4.5 years in. You guys have been doing the huddle, yourself and the Gonzalez brothers, for a little over a year now, 2 years.
Yeah, we're on episode 83 or 84. So
yeah, a little over a year.
You're a little over a year.
Yeah, and so I mean, that's like, it's all of it adds up. It's not. I don't expect it to change overnight. I don't expect it to change a lot in the next 5 years, to be honest. I'm interested to see what happens, obviously, but 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years down the road, now we're talking, what can I do with the itty bitty snowball I have, and what can you do with the snowball you have? Can we add them together? Can we get them to go separately and both go down a hill? Maybe, we each have our own snowballs, and then we meet up and have a conversation and we create a new one and we get that thing rolling down a hill. Like, what are you going to do? And this is not Paul, this is you as the listener. What are you going to do to leave the industry better than you found it? Because I don't know that there's enough out there that are saying they want to leave it better. They're willing to walk away with it in the shape that it's in, and that's the problem. So we're about where we need to be, and I would love to continue this conversation, but I have some other commitments to get to today with this recording, so I gotta cut us off here. But that's my challenge to you. What are you going to do to leave it better? What aren't you going to accept that you're going to start making changes to? So, Paul, is there anything you want to add quickly?
Yeah, one last point. Like you said, the snowball, and that's a great analogy. We talk about getting on the right path. There's plenty of times, like if you're driving down the highway, there's all these exits. You can take one of those exits and start going the right direction in your career anytime you choose. You just have to, like Kyle said, bring that personal integrity and say, no longer am I just going to do I'm not going to be a schedule driven installer, which we all have schedules. But my point is that you'll do anything it takes to get the job done, as opposed to anything it takes to get the job done right. And so just choose the right path. There's plenty of exits, find yours and start heading down the right path. And a lot of that is watching podcasts like this, getting involved in the industry, going to trade shows, meeting great people like Kyle, Jose and Daniel Gonzalez, and you get around these kind of people that really care about the industry. So I implore you to do that.
That's what's been huge, is there's a great community out there. Not everybody's salty. I've met some amazingly wonderful people. I have some of the best friends ever in my life. This industry changed my life. I can do nothing but want to give back to it, honestly, because it's improved my life so much. And a lot of it has to do with the people that I've met. There's a lot of really genuine, amazing people to get to know within this industry. And that's come from getting out of my comfort zone and going and networking. Like, again, and I've said it on the show before, you all probably think I'm super extroverted because I'm out here running my mouth on this microphone every week, and that I go to surfaces and I get put on stages and I'm talking in front of people. I don't mind doing that, but it's not my favorite thing. I will be the guy. You can come find me at like one of the parties that a manufacturer holds, and I'm probably talking to somebody I already know, which I shouldn't be doing. I should be going and meeting new people. Or I'm like standing there looking way out of place, super nervous because I hate being in a room of people I don't know and I just don't feel comfortable. Like I'm super introverted. I can do this. This is great. But like put me in a big party with people I don't know. Man, small talk is not my strong suit. And it's something I know that I need to work on. Luckily, I've met a lot of really great people that have contacts and are more outgoing than me. And they're just like, hey, Kyle, you got to meet this person. Hey, you got to go meet this. And they're just introducing me. And like, I'm fine then. Like, I'll talk up a storm after that. But I'm not the guy that's just going to walk up to somebody and like strike up the conversation. And so I've found ways to work around it and still be successful. So what can you do to leave an impact today, get uncomfortable, and you know, find the help you need for people to put you there? It'll be good. All right. Thank you, Paul, for joining us. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I hope you found something to, you know, encourage you that this is a great place to be. And it can only get better when we all apply ourselves to it. Make sure you like, subscribe, go to the YouTube, subscribe there. You're my marketing department. Tell a friend, tell a neighbor, tell a coworker about the podcast. Let them know what you're getting out of it. Leave a review. You can help support the show over at patreon.com/Floor Academy. Even $5 a month goes a long way in helping me continue to do this. Check the show notes for any, you know, checking out all the sponsors and working with them. Click on their links, go see what they got going on. Again, it doesn't happen without them either, and I'm super appreciative of them. So lastly, we got a quick word from Surfaces. I was just at the International Surface event in Las Vegas, and it was packed with products and amazing exhibits. Whether you were at the event or if you unfortunately missed it, the Tice team has released a lookbook covering over 100 products that were featured at the show. You can access it now at intlsurfaceevent.com/lookbook, LOOKBOOK, or you can click on the link in the show notes. I'll tell you what, the best thing I found this year, and I've read about it and it existed in the past. One of the major carpet, I want to say Shaw. I think it's Shaw. I don't think it's Mohawk. I think Shaw did it, but maybe it's Mohawk. They sponsor a booth at the show that has puppies in it. And I've always known it's there, but I'd never gone by it. I brought my buddy from reality television with me as my camera operator this year, so that I could focus on doing more of what I needed to do instead of trying to do what I needed to do plus be the camera guy. And he's really big into animals. We wandered by and he was like, oh my God, puppies. And we had to stop for like 15 minutes. It was like the best 15 minutes of the show though, because we were hanging out with puppies. So look, man, if you're going to like, Tice has lots of great networking and they have lots of great products to see. They got puppies.
Come see the puppies.
So that's my plug there, man. I'm going to go see puppies every day next year for like 15 minutes and get me some just good, relaxing, non-stressful downtime while at the show. Again, thank you everybody for joining me. Paul, thank you. And we will catch you all next week.